So apparently a lot of people have been getting upset I didn't update the firmware on the earphone Uboom L. Apologise about that. I'm going to put that right now. I've updated the firmware.
No, you didn't update it.
Oh, I haven't updated the firmware. By a brilliant stroke of luck, the original Motion Boom Plus had this issue where the passive radiators were sticking, and if you've got one of the original versions, it will still stick if it gets too hot. One of the guys from Soundcore saw me say that on a video, and you know what? He sent me a second one that was fixed. So I ended up with 2 Motion Boom Pluses. That's brilliant. It was brilliant that there was such a serious issue. I had to get another free speaker. So you said to me, ow, I said to you, what? You said to me, you got 2 Motion Boom Pluses. I said, yes, I have. And then you said, well, does the first one sound like the second one? And I thought, do you know what? I'll have to measure it and see. So before I measured it to see, what I did was I listened to them. And do you know what? It sounded like there may be an actual difference between them. So the best thing to do, I think, in circumstances such as this will be record it on the original Motion Boom Plus, record it on the new, improved, no sticking passive radiators version, see if there's any difference, and whether that may be because they've changed the material on the passive radiators, or could it just be speaker variation? That does happen. We know it happens. Some channels go out of the way to tell you that if your speaker doesn't sound that good, it can only be speaker variation and it's not something to do with the original firmware, but by somebody or other. And never mind, we won't get onto that. Way too controversial is what I'm going to do now. Just going to play comparison before, the comparison after. Show you some measurements. Let's have a look. Is it any different?
Been there for 3 too many times before. He loves to play the hero till he doesn't know more. When he comes knocking at your window, say goodbye, Salvador. Say goodbye, bye, Salvador. Goodbye, Salvador. Goodbye, and slam the door. Say goodbye, bye, Salvador. When he comes knocking at your window, say goodbye, Salvador. Every Salvador is the same. He'll play you like a Pavarotti's horn. He'll sing to you like a troubadour. He'll leave you and your tears on the floor. I've been there for 3 too many times before. He loves to play the hero till he doesn't know more. When he comes knocking at your window, say goodbye, Salvador.
So in terms of the actual bass, the white line, the new version of my Motion Boom Plus, appears to have a tad more in the mid bass, both at maximum volume and at 60%, 66% volume. Then looking around 1.5 kilohertz to around 3 kilohertz. This white line new version is a little bit smoother, a little bit more even. There's a peak on the new version at 1.7 kilohertz thereabouts, compared to the 2 kilohertz peak that's on the older version, even more pronounced at maximum volume
is the peak on the older version. And of course, at maximum volume, that's going to translate into more screech. So we got less screech at maximum volume now. We have a little bit more of a peak at 5.5 kilohertz, but it was actually dipping in that area before. So a little bit more of a peak seems to work on the newer version for a little bit more clarity. Again, 6 to 8 kilohertz. It's less pronounced now on the new version, but that's actually a little bit more accurate. So it's actually more smooth now in the 6 to 8 kilohertz region. And at the very high end, 15 kilohertz and above, it looks like there's a little bit more of a roll-off. Probably won't hear that at all. So overall, those changes make it a little bit less harsh. Possibly in the real world, you're going to get a dab more in the bass. And definitely in those mids, 400 to 500 hertz, filling in, well, it's actually smoother and more accurate now. That's making a difference as well.
So I have to say, in my personal opinion, there is a difference, and it's a good difference between the old version and the new version. I do prefer the sound of the new version. The differences are subtle, but they are definite, whether they came over or not in that recording. But in the real world, I can tell you, it seemed less harsh to me, although even measuring it, the differences are small. Side by side, A being, the newer sounded clearer, yet still less harsh, and almost muddy when I go back to the original version. So I'll have to say, I don't know if that's the, obviously, how could I possibly know? I've only got two. If they send me Soundcore, if you're watching this video and you want to send me another free speaker, I will happily test it to see if there's any difference. However, it could be that the new versions simply sound better, in my personal opinion, or it could just be speaker variation. And I did note a tiny improvement in the bass, but we just can't know, speaker variation or not. So you asked me to do the video. The clue that I did the video is the fact that you're watching that video now. And I have to say, I think the fact that I have two free Motion Boom Pluses means we'll have to have a listen to two of these versus one. Two of these, right? You tell me. Hey guys, hit me up in the comments, right? If you think you'd like to hear two Motion Boom Pluses versus the Tribbit Stormbox Blast. You can't get the Tribbit Stormbox Blast, so you're probably asking yourself, well, if I have two, we know one can't really compete against the Tribbit Stormbox Blast. Could two compete against Tribbit Stormbox Blast? It's an idea for another video. Watch this space. Thank you for watching.
I ain't about that life. I ain't about that life. Ain't no project wife, got my logic right, guess I'm not your type. I ain't about that life. I ain't about that life. Sorry, ma, I ain't get it right. I'ma just live my life. I ain't about that. I ain't about that life.